Hello everyone and welcome to Slipjoint Sawyer. Today we're going to be taking a look at an older Victorinox model, and this is one I actually didn't know that exists. Now the pattern in itself is a recruit. Obviously I know the recruit exists, but I did not know there was an eco recruit from back in the 80s. But we're going to do a walk around this knife together, take a look at what's on there, what isn't on there, the sort of differences between the modern day recruit really, because there are a couple, they're very minor, the differences. But I do think this is a really cool piece to add to the collection. I've been sort of working my way through the older economy stamped tang Victorinox, and I think there may be one or two more for me to get, but this is one that I actually got in a bundle of knives from Dan over at Bladebridge Customs. So make sure you are checking him out. I'll link all his details in the description below. But let's jump into it. So the Recruit 84mm design. We have 1, 2, 3¼ inches closed, so it's a really nice comfortable sort of size to use. We have the older style economy scales, red Cellidor with the hot stamped Victorinox shield in there. I don't know if you can see that very well. You can see that there is a texture to it where it's been hot stamped into the Cellidor. Now this knife has been used and pre-loved, so you will notice a couple of bits and pieces, and I will be addressing that. The tip of the blade that is sticking up there very slightly. You can't cut yourself on it, but I want to get that below the scale line. But two-layer design, same as the sort of standard Recruit. We get the aluminum if you're in the States liners between the steel springs. And then on the back you'll notice there is no scale tools at all, which is why the Recruit is the model that I always request or always sort of tell to someone if they're looking for a knife, someone for a first knife for like their teenager or whatever it may be, a friend, I always recommend the Recruit because it's that nice, easy pocketable carry. You haven't got the corkscrew on there, which, to be honest, a lot of people aren't going to need. And it's just a really nice sort of size to use. We get a couple of tool layers on here, so you get the opening layer. See, we have the can opener with the small flathead screwdriver. And of course you get the crescent moon or cat's eye nail nick on there, and the classic Victorinox sort of tumbled polished finish. Really nice snap on that. Now this one was quite dirty when I got it, but not to the point where it was filthy. It was just pocket lint and things like that, so I just gave it a wash out, and that's all I really done to it because it was already sharp as hell when it came to me. See the edge there for the can opener and the nice point on there. And this little flathead does also work as a small Phillips as well, as long as you're very careful not to bend it. Left hand side then, you get the cap lifter with the wire bender and the larger flathead screwdriver. And you'll notice no half stop on these models. So the older economies didn't have any half stops, and I mean all the stuff from around this sort of era didn't have half stops. Generally, it's just my preference for a Swiss Army knife, really. I know why they have got half stops, so it makes it easier to use in this position, so you can have that added torque. But as a sort of, as a collector point of view, I really love the ones without a half stop. But again, you can see the nail nick on there and the classic finish. Now, you can use this as a small pry bar if you wanted to. I have used these as very small pry bars, but I would always recommend putting your finger underneath and on top, because you don't want to wiggle the pivot open and create blade play. Just if you use it like that, only for light jobs, mind, it'll work perfectly fine for that. On the back then, we get the pen blade, and this has seen a bit of use. Someone's bent the edge there a bit, but it's absolutely screaming sharp, even where that bend is, so it's not affected the edge. See if I can get that to show for you. You can see the edge there. Really nice edge on that. Of course, the Victorinox finish on the blade. You can see a bit of a scratching on the blade, but again, it's an older knife. These ones, I really like the ones that have got history where someone's carried it, and it sort of tells a story what it's been used for. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. But the pen blade on this one then, we're looking at 1.6 inches total length with just shy of a 1.5 inch cutting edge. Now these are normally 1.5, I think, or I could be wrong if it's different to the 91, but it's well within that UK limit, so you can have no trouble carrying this in the UK. Nice little nail nick on there, deep enough to get your thumbnail into to get it open, and then a nice blade stock on that as well. I'd say this is about a 5 to about a 5.5, and honestly, I've mentioned it before in previous videos, For pen blades or the smaller blades on a Stockman, I do prefer them to have a slightly lighter pull because they are light use blades. And of course, with them not being as long, the nail nick is obviously closer to the pivot, which means the pull would be heavier anyway. Now, if the blade was as long as the main blade, I would probably give this about a 4 pull, considering, you know, the amount of leverage you're going to be using from up here. But do prefer the smaller blades to have a slightly lighter pull. Then we come to the main blade, and you'll notice this one has definitely been used. It looks like whoever owned it first snapped the tip off, and they've done sort of a reshaping job on this. And they've not done a terrible job, to be fair. It's a pretty good job. It's sharp all the way down. The only thing they could have done a bit better, which I'll probably do myself, is I'll take a bit off the tip here and come down towards the edge. Maybe take that much off, just so we can get the point of that below the tool there. You can just see that point sticking up there. But as I mentioned, it's not enough to cut yourself on. It's very hard to sort of catch that. I've done this quite a lot, and it's not catching me at all. For me, it's just an aesthetic thing. I think it should be below sort of the line of the scales. So you've got the classic finish, of course, absolutely covered in scratches, but it's been used and abused and loved by someone, which is fantastic. The classic Victorinox nail nick, and onto the tang stamp, which tells us the age of the knife. So you have Victorinox, Switzerland, stainless, and Rossfry, and you can see the V in Victorinox, if it'll focus for me, is the same size as the rest of the text. And if you turn it over, we have economy stamped on the back of the tang. And that takes the date of this. They only did this for 3 years, 1977 to 1980. So this is a pretty old knife. It's way older than me. Even if this is a 1980, it's a good 11 years older than I am. And I mean, I think it's in pretty good shape for that. So we're looking at, how old am I? A 45-year-old knife at its youngest. And I think the condition is fantastic. Everything works perfectly. Now, this main blade will have lost some length, but as it stands, we are 2.25 inch full length with a 1.75 inch cutting length. And I believe this would have been a 2-inch cutting length if obviously that tip had come down and been complete. But absolutely wonderful piece to add to the collection. The sort of the different variations part of the collection is really growing for me recently, especially the economy ones. I mean, the economy camper is one of my favourite to carry. But fantastic walk and talk on all the tools. So there we go. That's my review of the Victorinox Economy Recruit from 1977 to 1980. The model number for this one is only very slightly different to the Recruit of today. That is 2.2500, and then the Recruit of today would just change that 0 at the end to a 3. So not much difference in it. Really hope you enjoyed this. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.
Reviews nights on a dark old night. Got a knack for the vintage touch. Takes them back from rust to bright. Slipjoint Sawyer, sharp and